Greetings and God bless. I was just looking through the library and like their book sale. And so this is a Nadine Gordimer, and it's a collection of her essays, The Essential Gesture. And I just turned to this one part, this one speech she did. I guess it was maybe at a graduation, called Speak Out, the Necessity for Protest. So she was South African, and she's white, educated, and well, now I guess she's a writer, or she was a writer. And there's just this one paragraph that stood out to me. And yes, it's a complex situation, South Africa, but I just think this is interesting. The fact is that, and this was written, I think, in the 70s, early 70s. The fact is that it is the students of the English language universities who have kept alive the spirit of protest among whites in South Africa over the last 5 years or more. To their shame, and with the exception of few other groups, my generation, so she was probably maybe in her 50s or something, have abdicated their responsibility to speak out. So when she's talking about protesting, she's not saying burn cars and break windows. She's talking about like protest as in declare there's a problem, like just speak up. Swapping the true horror stories of the callousness and hypocrisy that are never in short supply in public life in our country. This is South Africa. They her generation, she's saying, we deplore in the privacy of their own dining rooms what they listlessly condone in public. So, if I understand that correctly, she's saying that even though in private they didn't like the apartheid uh, aspects of hypocrisy and callousness and abuse towards Africans and Indians from East India. They didn't like it, but they would condone it in public. So they were silent, and so with silence comes consent. But in private, deploring in the same breath the scruffy irresponsibility of younger generations, so her generations, the adults, have allowed themselves to be frightened and silenced, while their effeminate, long-haired sons and unladylike daughters voice thoughts that are safer left unspoken, ask aloud the awkward questions, and endure the unquestionably adult experience of being watched by the security police. That was a pretty complicated paragraph, but I just thought, so this was written, I think, in the 70s. I think this was 1971 was when she gave this talk. And she's talking about effeminate men and unladylike daughters. Does that remind you of anything? Like maybe the past couple of years, few years, 5 years? And there's some, I think if she was around today, she might be progressive liberal, like just hook, line, and sinker, probably get the GMO injection and whatnot. But I think there is some reflection or observation, wow, when the male is effeminate and the female is unladylike, that's interesting. That's may not be helping the situation. And of course, when the parents are silent, just passively going along with what the authorities are saying, when there's no speaking up, when there's no outcry, when there's no protest, and by that I mean just speaking up. I'm property needs to be safe and left safe. But so when people are being, participating in a conspiracy of silence and losing the fundamentals of what we are. Like, biological males are biological males, biological females are biological females. And when we become consumed by this whole other gender identity, there's no time for the rest of life. That becomes an obsession. It's not something like, um, I'm eating a salad today. I mean, and I know people can be obsessed about food, but I digress. I just thought it was interesting. And if you have, I recommend looking up, possibly on Tor, what is going on in South Africa right now. It's very suppressed what is going on in South Africa. I saw this one video of this emaciated guy. He looked like he didn't eat, wasn't allowed food. I've heard that white people are not allowed to get food from the food bank. They're not allowed to purchase food. And if this wasn't true, why is this information being suppressed? Why do we not? Why are there no just two sides of the story? I've heard that white people are being assaulted and murdered, and there's just nobody cares. Nobody's doing anything about it. It's like there's some weird vengeance, dehumanizing kind of a thing going on. And of course, apartheid is the wrong thing. And apartheid can happen. There can be, like right now, I think there's an alphabet soup apartheid going on, because the LGBTQ pedo group, they want everything to just be LGBTQ pedo. They're not interested in the heterosexuals. They're not interested in the people who stuck with their gender identity and the heterosexual traditional family. The alphabet soup people don't want traditional gender, sexuality, and family. The alphabet soup, they want the alphabet soup people. And so that's this apartheid going on. And the globalists are alphabet soup people in government, people in positions in highest levels, CEO, C-level positions of media, and whatever, businesses. They're alphabet soup people. They're all trained globalists and part of this Luciferian cult. And I think from what little I've seen about what's gone on in South Africa, I mean, it's horrific. It's catastrophic. It's a genocide of white people. And because it's white people that are being killed, nobody cares. And I think that is what is being set up in the United States. And I think there's plenty of alphabet soup people who are totally, like, even if they're white themselves, they're like, all whites should die. And I think that there's a lot of progressive liberals who are like, yeah, all whites should die. Even I should die. Like themselves, they think. Like there's this martyr mentality. There's this self-loathing, death wish kind of thing. And I've discussed this before, where the environmentalists, they're like, yeah, all humans should die. And then the white people they've got this death wish, like just like the environmentalists, like there's this, they think they all should die, or at least everybody else should die, not them. And it's like this self-loathing, and I think it's demonic. And if we're not careful, this is what's going to happen in the United States. And I think it kind of has happened. Like with the first spells that were like the demonic spells that were cast in 2020. I think that was, and the thing is, it's like everybody suffers. Like when people were trying to defund certain structures, who lost out? Like who were the highest number of people killed, murdered by each other? We know. And the thing is, this has been going on for years. This happened even before the defund movement, the Marxism coup happened. Certain people were killing certain people, and it wasn't white people. And it got worse when the Marxism coup happened in certain major cities run by democratic Chinese operative demonized people. So I just thought it was kind of prescient that it was that there was just a little quote in this book. And I don't know what this lady's ultimate philosophy was. And I just looked it up yesterday. I was looking up who was Freemasonic in the movement in South Africa. And it seems like Tutu was Freemason, Mandela, and another one. So, and that is often the case. Mao was a Freemason. So, the Masons are leaders of activist groups, and they may not be like what we know to be a Freemason. They may be a Jesuit. They may be, some other kind of secret society. But they're all kind of part, extensions of the main hub of this Babylonian satanic, demonic cult, Luciferian cult. So I really think that much of history it's been written by whoever won, and I don't think it's really all what we have believed. And I think news is greatly suspect, because the news is not legally required to be honest. If the news wants to say we are living on planet Mars, they can say that. It's not illegal. If the news wants to say aliens have abducted everybody, the news is allowed to say that, because news is a commercial enterprise. It's entertainment. And if they want to live a fantasy, they have a right. I think that's free speech. I think technically, although some of us don't have free speech, because I can't say certain words or make any certain inferences, and I don't even know, even though I'm being vague, I don't know if that's pleasing the big brother artificial intelligence robots. Even now, I don't know if this is, any moment is a video gonna be removed, or is my channel gonna be, eliminated because I said something I didn't even know I shouldn't. I mean, the thing is, ultimately, what YouTube wants is for nobody to have anything thoughtful to say. They want it all to just be dumb, meaningless, superficial, self-centered, just the lowest of the low. If you do the lowest of the low, if you do like porn, YouTube is going to be fine. But if you do anything that's like meaningful, thoughtful, questioning, YouTube starts getting really alarmed, very frightened. And and that's where we are right now, because certain people are too afraid. And I mean, I'm thinking it's been engineered. People are, they're. I mean, I wonder if I think like in the 90s, I was hearing a lot about people taking medications. Like Prozac was really big, and like 80s and 90s, people were going to 12-step programs. They were going to therapy. They were working on themselves. There was a lot of like facilitation going on. So, and then drugs took over. People stopped doing as much therapy, doing as much kind of support group kind of thing as when it was like in the 90s, like it was just really big. And so people have numbed out to their emotions. We've had an entire generation that's lived on psychiatric drugs, and parents that have had their children, or parents that have been on psychiatric meds. But so we've had a generation that have not had real emotion, that have not learned how to deal with real emotion, that have not really learned how to relate as humans relate. And we've had just a generation of people that just are medicated. And so folks don't really know what matters because they're just on drugs, because they've been put on drugs so they can just endure a shitty job, a horrible marriage, whatever, abusive family, whatever it is. Like, so people are just so doped up to just like, so they show up, so they make their money, so they conform to whatever, the marriage or the career or whatever. And so they're all doped up for that, just to like suffer through that, with no sense of feelings. And then there's been a coup going on, which is trying to destroy your freedoms. And because people are so doped up, they don't realize it's a problem, because they're on these drugs to just like stay in this marriage that they don't like, or stay in this job that they hate, or whatever, just pay these bills that are too much. And so I think like people have been so medicated and they're three sheets to the wind. Yes, somehow they're managing to walk and stay upright and whatever. But so I think that's how we've lost this country, amongst other things. But I'm like I keep being so distressed that people let this happen, that people are content with the suffocation and whatever. And I'm thinking, just they're doped up, and being so doped up, yeah, it might allow you to just physically drag your body here and there, so you keep your status and your leverage and your bank account. But when when your drugs are propping you up, whether it's your psychiatric meds, when that's just the only thing that's propping you up, and you have no heart and no soul, it's so deadened, or it's so buried, then you can't even defend your family, you can't even defend your country when you're so doped up. And people are so doped up, as a rule, as it's just such a norm. Like, what, how many drugs are elderly people on? It's like 8 to 10 or 13, and these drugs like interact with each other, and nobody's watching for that. um so yeah, this things are really bad, and I'm like wondering what country is going to um you know uh you know help things out, fix things, or lead the way. And I was a couple of years ago, I was reading this cook. Well, it's not a. Well, it was kind of it's a cookbook memoir about this woman's visit to the Soviet Union uh, after after when Russia after Russia became um, the like after Gorbachev. I don't even know all the terminology, but she had visited it, I don't know, maybe like 10 years ago. And so in like the 80s, everything was pretty friendly. Things were very tough. There wasn't money for anything, and there was this black market, and everybody's just having to hustle to get a little bit of something. And it was a weird communist, very controlled kind of situation, a lot of privation. But when she came back, when capitalism kind of hit Russia, so there was still so there were really super rich Russian, government employees, right? That were, because of corruption, and people, and it seemed like people were really mean, that next level of society. And I don't know if it's because of competitiveness. I don't know if it was because of some sort of disintegration of culture. But I just noticed I feel like it's so funny. I'm talking about Russia and I'm getting some Russian spam right now. Um, but I noticed this grimness this past like maybe year or so. And it could, and I think it might be because of the lockdowns and stuff like that. But I'm just wondering if that is, I mean, the lockdown is kind of a communist kind of a thing, right? So it's so like, uh, I'm thinking that maybe we experienced a little bit of the Soviet Union, in America the past couple years. So I just wanted to share that thought, and it's pretty. It's probably nothing very surprising or original, but it was just on my mind. So thanks for listening, and God bless.